Welcome to It's a Yes, Making It in Media.
I'm Jo Wood.
And I'm Debra Sharon. Between us, we've spent many years helping people build successful media careers, from first jobs to senior leadership.
Each week, we answer real questions from our listeners, covering everything from interviews to sales conversations with clear, practical advice.
If you're ambitious, capable, and ready to take control of your career, you're in the right place. This episode, we're delighted to be joined by three experts who you'll hear from later on. Claire Carney from News UK, Josh Barnett from Lumen Research, and Chris Turner-Green from Technology Advice. But more from them later. Okay, so Jo, let's talk about how quickly AI seems to have taken over our working lives. Recent research that I've just read, the CIPD survey, suggesting that an incredibly high number of UK businesses recruiting are using AI as part of their screening services. Any idea what the percentage is, Jo?
No, but I fear you're going to tell me.
Well, would you be surprised to hear it's 68%?
No, not really. Although that is astonishing when you think about the very short time that AI has actually been in our lives for.
Well, that's exactly right, because I think it was only November 2022 that we first came across AI. So that's an enormous percentage of businesses relying on AI for their recruitment process.
So when you're talking to your sales teams, Debra, what are they using AI for?
Well, I think people come to AI to write their emails, but actually the best sales teams are using it for their client research, their preparation, so that they recognize they can go into a conversation with a client knowing a lot about that business, the challenges they're facing, if they won an industry award last week. I mean, sales teams have always been very good at preparing, but actually now there's no excuse because you can do it in 2 minutes. So I think that the most enlightened sales teams are starting to use it more and more for that. And then some people are realizing that LinkedIn is really important, something that we'll come back to in another episode. And I think we're all seeing a lot of LinkedIn posts, which sometimes very obviously have been created with AI.
There's such a fine line, isn't there? Because it makes your life so much easier if you want to write something you're not really sure you want to write. Give me some ideas about this, that, and the other. It makes it really easy. But the reality is that making it easy is not always the right answer, because it doesn't actually reflect what's going on or how you want to come across, or a myriad of other things.
Yeah.
And getting that right is obviously key in how we use it, both in recruitment and how no doubt everybody uses it in sales too.
And it's a sweet spot, isn't it? Because I think we can all spot when these things have been done quickly, a mile off. And AI slop is a little phrase that I quite enjoy just saying. But I think we know what that means, which is very poor quality content just being churned out without any kind of thought.
We've had some really interesting things happen as well. So candidates who are using AI, that means that if they're on a video call, they can have 2 screens set up and try and get the other screen to listen to the question and read the question and then give them an answer. And clients can see that because the candidate is looking at 2 different screens, right? And there's a slight delay in the answer. Yeah. And it's mad.
That has just blown my mind. So in real time, in the middle of an interview, a candidate is actually looking for an answer that an AI is able to provide for them.
Yes. Yeah.
So are you and your consultants having to talk to candidates more and more about how they should or shouldn't be using AI as they go through the recruitment process?
Completely.
Well, I know that's a point that we're going to be discussing with our experts later in the episode. And one of the themes that came out to me through their conversations has been that you use AI as a starting point. So if you've been given a task, maybe use it to start your thought process, but you shouldn't rely on it for the end result.
Completely. It can give you a fantastic basic structure. And it's then just about adding in your personality, which, as you say, is one of the things we're going to talk about later on. And I know that our experts focus on too.
And it's interesting, Jo, isn't it, that apparently the most Googled question about AI in the UK in the last 12 months has been, can my boss tell that I've used ChatGPT? So everyone is really worried about how obvious and transparent it is, which is really interesting.
Completely. I mean, it makes you feel like a very clever person, doesn't it, when you can get an answer to everything? Yeah. But that doesn't really mean to say that you're helping yourself in every which way possible.
And I think the other thing that we should mention is hallucinating AIs, that actually we can't rely on having accurate information being played back to us, that sometimes it's really quick and easy to ask AI to give you the answer. But if you don't use your human critical skills and faculties, you could find yourself regurgitating information which is completely fictional.
Yes. And actually working out where the mistakes are and what's wrong is part of the challenge, isn't it?
Absolutely. In terms of hiring, Has that process changed a lot? Are you seeing many changes in the way that companies are actually going through the screening process themselves?
I think that if you are going through the process of applying directly, there are all kinds of hurdles that the talent teams have put in place. Yeah, so your CV needs to get through their ATS system or whatever it might be. If it doesn't quite correspond with their processes, it might get blocked straight away. So it's really challenging to make or get or derive that standout, even if your CV complies with their process. It's working out how talent teams and in fact how recruitment companies can use AI to make sure that we're not eliminating people too easily, and they're not getting sort of flushed out before they get a chance to actually speak to a human. And the balance of that is the key critical thing. Therein is the reason why you should be working with a recruitment consultant.
I felt you were going to say that, but it makes perfect sense. You could have all the right traits that you've been describing, but if the system doesn't allow you to actually present yourself, you need to be working with somebody who can present you properly.
So I've always said that as a recruitment consultant, our aim is to build trust with the client to the extent that we can say, I've just seen somebody great. Will you see them? And the answer is yes, without any conversation around the candidate's details, credentials or anything. And, as a company, we have always worked on that premise.
Yeah.
So, Debra, today's question is from Paul in Birmingham. Really interesting take on AI. Yeah, so he says he's trying to write client emails and using AI, and they all sound really generic and robotic, and he ends up rewriting everything anyway. He's asked, how do you use AI in a way that actually sounds like you and doesn't make clients think they're getting a template? And to be honest, I think, Paul, this is a really important question, because if we all keep using AI to ask the same questions, we're all going to sound the same, look the same, nobody's going to achieve anything.
I think it's a very good question, because everyone got very excited about AI in the beginning. And now if we're all using it, there is a danger we all sound exactly the same. And I think a lot of people are having that type of concern. Maybe the first thing to think about is what the obvious signs are that somebody is using AI. I mean, can you tell when you've received an email that's been written by a chatbot?
Well, the most obvious thing is spelling. So they're largely American.
Right.
And if you look at how the word behavior is spelled, it's always OR at the end. The use of emojis at the end of the lines. Yeah.
So at first that looked really pretty and interesting. Now, the minute you can see loads of emojis, you're pretty sure that that's been written perhaps on an AI platform. Also loads of capital letters. So every single word in a sentence might have a capital letter. And the famous, is it called an M dash? The very long dash, as long as a letter M, that is not something that we would probably use in any normal...
That's a new one on me. I haven't seen that before. You learn something new every day.
I guess that it's all of those things which mean that actually we could all be spewing out things that look and sound like they are exactly the same. So it feels like it's a very great aid to have all of this AI, but customizing it is the critical thing. Part of what I'm seeing people doing is creating personas for themselves every time they instruct AI to do something.
Really? How do you do that?
Well, you just might say, I am English, first of all, and therefore I'd like you to write all of your answers in English. And I'd like all my communication to have a warm, friendly tone. I like to use bullet points and not emojis. And I would like to make sure that you are writing things in a style that look and feel like I am a professional salesperson. So you give it a set of instructions, almost as if you had a really smart work experience or intern person being part of your team. And the way that you would ask them to write your emails for you would be to instruct them as to what good looks like for you normally. And I think unless you do that with AI, everything is going to come out looking pretty much the same. But it's quite remarkable when you start training it in the language and the tone that you want it to use.
So if you say, I'm Debra and I want to write like this, does it then remember every time you log on and write the way that you want?
I may be wrong here, but I think if you're paying for one of the enhanced platforms, then you'll be able to keep that persona and it will remember you every single time. And you can customize your bot so that it will remember who you are. But if you're just using any of the free versions, just write it out as a bit of text and save it, and just make sure that for every instruction, you're just copying and pasting it and putting it in before you start. I think the quality of the way that you write a prompt is probably one of the biggest new business skills that people are having to get their head around, the clarity with which they put together an instruction. When I'm in training, I sometimes do a little AI exercise, which is to ask AI to make a salad for supper. And I get 10 people in the room to put in the same prompt. But obviously, the only good results come out when you start really refining what that prompt is. What do I like? What don't I like? How many people is it for? Which ingredients? What's my budget? So if you think we've only had this technology around for a relatively short amount of time, it's not surprising we haven't completely mastered it yet. But the end result probably means that if we can train ourselves to be better, we'll get a bigger and better result from it. It's just a question of being able to see where it can add some value.
But yeah, Paul, I hope that's going to help you in writing your emails.
Teach your AI who you are first.
We're delighted to be joined today by 3 great industry experts, aren't we, Debra?
Yes. We're delighted to have Claire Carney joining us today. Claire is Head of Learning and Development at News UK. Claire, welcome to the show. We've had a question in from Chloe. She's saying that job specs keep asking about AI proficiency. What tools should she actually learn before the next interview? I just wondered whether you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Debra. I think now it's standard to be using AI in your work. So it's not just about being proficient in it enough to get through. It's about really understanding how it adds to your work and some of the kind of productivity and efficiencies that you can do through that. So it's not really a niche technical skill anymore. It's something that supports you and also runs alongside all roles. I think if you're going to go into a new company, firstly, try and understand what do they use, really obviously, but are they on Microsoft? So that's Copilot, or Google. So you're looking at those suite of tools. So understanding that then helps you drop in the right terminology and shows you be able to get along when you get that role. I'd say understanding the job description and the work involved is incredibly important. So how can you show you know how to use AI to make your job more efficient and productive? I would give some examples of how you could use it to automate some tasks. And you're not, obviously you're not supposed to know everything right now because this is an interview, but definitely give some examples from your previous job about how you used AI really effectively, and also how you shared information. I think that's a really, really big thing about it. Like we're moving into the AI world more and more, and actually how you pick up on things is by, speaking to your colleagues, understanding more from that. So sharing how you might have shared some ideas with your team, or just generally saying, I really am looking forward to working and sharing knowledge with this new team as well, is always a good place to start.
So as well as it being about tools, it's about attitude.
Definitely about attitude. We're not supposed to know all of this right now, and new things keep happening all of the time with AI. Like every single day there's something new and something different, and you can't keep up with all of it. So actually I've found on my team is actually someone shares a tidbit of information and then actually you go and use it. So it's about having a little bit of a play around with it. It's about practicing, just giving it a go and saying, rather than just trying to come up against that wall of AI and thinking this isn't going to help me, just listen to what someone's got to say and give it a go.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Claire. It sort of links with a question that has come in from Raj in Leicester. And Raj says he's a bit worried that AI is going to replace media salespeople. Do you think that is something that he or others should be worrying about at the moment? Job security in a world of AI?
Shouldn't be worried about job security. You should be worried about how you use AI to make your job better. AI is there to help and support. It's not there to take your job. Now at News UK, we keep talking about AI accelerated, people powered. And I think that's a really important thing of looking at it, how we look at it, because ultimately it can automate and help your job and make you better at it. So for instance, my learning and development team, we take briefs from stakeholders and now we put them into Gemini and it helps us write some things. So something that could have taken a week now takes us a couple of hours, and it really gives you a head start. So no, I don't think it's going to replace media salespeople. Hopefully not, obviously. And you shouldn't be worried about that job security. unless, you are not using it and you're not trying to work out the best way to use it in your role. So just think about it as using it to prop yourself up, get better and save time to do some really good stuff, like going out to see people in agencies, going out to see clients, doing the face-to-face stuff that AI can't.
I'm just going to chip in here. Yeah. If you're getting your sales team to use it in that way to put together a proposal or a presentation or something, how do you make sure that they don't all look the same?
I think it does come from understanding that kind of prompt engineering, what you're putting in. I think you do really need to understand the brief and make sure you've written it properly in there so that actually you are getting something that's a little bit nuanced. I wouldn't lift and shift completely. That's not how I would use it. We're using it to help us get started with something, to help us kind of save some time and all those kind of things. So anyone that's just lifting and shifting, copying and pasting, and then just sending it in a proposal isn't doing a good enough job. You do need to check it. There are some things that maybe some facts that don't come back in the right way, or some, even for us, we've got journalists here. I can't use some of the words they use because it's American quite often. So I have a Z instead of an S. Yeah. I can't put that out to someone in my organization because they'll know really quickly that I'd copied and pasted that from AI. So I think be sensible about it rather than just kind of doing that copy and paste.
Yeah, definitely.
That's very interesting. What you're, I guess, suggesting is that we could be better at our jobs by using this, but it's not going to actually replace anybody.
I think all of our businesses thrive on connections, networking, and relationships. I think what it now does is it helps us get the work done, but the people side of it won't go away. So we need to be even better at, for my role, obviously facilitating. For salespeople, that's presenting. That's about networking. That's about getting out and doing the things, being in front of those people in sales.
Fantastic. Thank you, Claire.
So this seems like a great time to bring in Josh Barnett. Josh is Global SVP for Lumen Research. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Josh, can I just ask you, when you look at how teams are working today, what one skill do you think will matter far more in the next few years than perhaps it does right now?
Yes, I'm going to avoid the obvious answer, which is to get better at using AI tools, and we'll think of something more outside the box. And it's not that this skill is not important now, but I think the key skill people should invest in is effective communication. In a world where in many cases we spend 50% of our time sitting at our kitchen table, where we use AI to craft our emails, I think being an effective communicator is going to be an essential skill moving forward. Despite how easy AI makes our day-to-day tasks, our clients still require human connection. People by people, I think, is a phrase that is often bandied about, right? Having a team of people that can connect is really important. And I think that's even important for the work we do within our own company. I think we can schedule endless video calls, but spending time getting to know the people that you're working with creates a better working environment. And I think even when we do have 5-10 minute conversations arguing over whether Pringles are a crisp or a potato snack, it is an important part of the day. My advice would be invest in collaborating with others and creating long-term relationships with clients and colleagues.
That's getting harder and harder, isn't it? Because Gen Z spends so much time behind a screen and emailing and not really meeting and speaking to each other. I think that's harder to make happen.
It is harder, but but that really kind of goes on to my point. It's like what is getting harder over the course of time, and where should we invest more of our efforts? I'm someone who enjoys the flexible working situation. However, when we are in the office, which is a few days a week, just making sure that we are present and there is really easy to do. So it's a simple change, but one that we do have to really think about. And even in the way that we communicate with people, I think having personality in your emails is not a bad thing. It's not to say that AI can't be useful in terms of streamlining workflows and, making it much quicker to write emails, but there is something about having a personality which is going to make a big difference and make your clients connect with you, which ultimately will end up in driving more sales.
So do you think, Josh, that that's a skill that people can learn, or do you think that they have to have it innate in their own personality?
I think it's something you have to practice. I saw an article about how anxiety rates went up after lockdown, right? Because people hadn't had as much face-to-face exposure for, a couple of years. So it's not something you need to learn, but it is something we need to practice and just making sure that we are comfortable with that. And there's lots of things you learn when you're in person. I'm thinking about managing upwards, even if you don't manage people, learning how to work with other people in the business is really important. when you are sitting at home, you don't hear the phone call that happens next to you that's got nothing to do with anything you're working on. But you just, whilst you're writing an email or whatever you're doing, you're listening and absorbing some of the knowledge from other people. So yes, I don't necessarily think you need to learn it, but it's certainly something that we should practice.
Maybe it's something that team leaders have to be mindful of to actually proactively focus on.
And yeah, that's my point. It's very easy to be in an office and schedule a day of back-to-back phone calls, video calls with people. But instead of doing that, try and, make sure that the people you need to meet are in the office, or if you're going to client meetings, try and get out to their offices. It makes a huge difference.
That was great, Josh. You raised some really interesting points about how to retain the personal connection and use AI effectively. I think it's a really good time for us to bring in Chris.
We're delighted to be joined today by Chris Turner-Green, MD at Technology Advice.
Welcome to the show, Chris.
Which AI workflows actually enhance B2B selling? Are there any particular examples that you have of what works well?
We use a lot. All right. So unsurprisingly, 95% of our customer base are using AI and promoting AI as a service, as a solution. So we're using it as well. I think as a B2B seller, I've talked about this a lot, and my team probably get bored of me saying it, is that AI will not replace media sellers, but those who use AI will replace those who do not use AI in their endeavors. Our main things that we use it for would be account research acceleration. So we're going to reach out to a customer. We haven't engaged them before. It could take a salesperson in the old world before AI half a day to research them. AI could do it in 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, maybe quicker, depending on what tool you're using. You can use multiple tools to get different points of view and then bring them together. We also do it for trigger-based outreach. So this person's changed role. This person's got a new product to be sold. So all those they've got new funding. That agency's won the new account. We don't have to go to what would have been previously trade journals. We can get this all from AI because it's, they're crawling the web for all the information, assimilating it all together. And similarly, we could do call prep. So we're going to have a call with someone we've not met before. What do we need to know about them? We don't have to spend 2 hours going through LinkedIn. It scans it, it reads it for us, it puts together. But I think the most important bit for me as a salesperson is that when we have all our calls, we have a recorder there. In the old world, it's for training purposes. But the most important thing now is summarizes it, helps you do the follow-up email, but most importantly, it tells you the prompts of what your to-do list from that call is. And I can only tell you as a manager, one of your biggest frustrations I will have is that someone has not followed up with their call because they've either missed it, right, or they've forgotten it. This fundamentally stops that from even happening as a possibility. So it's really good. However, if you use AI to write all your LinkedIn posts, all your emails, and whatnot, you leave it up to its own devices, it's very easy now, you can spot it. I mean, it tells you so much. I still write down notes on a piece of paper, and then I compare my paper to what's in the calls I have. And you look at the to-do list, I was like, no, I missed that one, need to add that in.
Yeah.
And your customer's going to be disappointed unless you had it. So it's a good safety check as well. I think when they came in, everyone was a bit scared. Now they're everywhere. And I think the question now is finding the right one for you.
Thanks, Chris. I'm sure that all our listeners found that really helpful. Just before you go, all of you, just one final thing, our signature question to each of you. What's your best yes? So, Claire, what's your best yes?
Well, I always try and come at everything in a really positive way. I just think you have to try and always err on the side of positive. But I was always told years ago, you can't say yes to everything. Like in media sales, you have to be a little bit more cautious than that. So it's always yes, but in a personal capacity, and Debra will probably laugh about this because she does know me well. I think the biggest yes I had was when I actually got my first dog, and that was just over 8 years ago. And it was a real turning point in my life. I had wanted to be a dog mum for a very long time. And when you get that yes from the breeder that says, you can have your dog. And for me, that was fantastic. It was a real shift and something that's led to a lot of positivity in my life in terms of changing my routine, being outdoors more, all of those things, all those shifts. So it's funny when you say yes to something or get a yes from someone about how actually that can impact and ripple through your life in a really positive way.
That is just fantastic. That's absolutely inspirational, because I think I met you just at that point. And to think that kind of opened out a whole new chapter.
That's really fab. And Josh, what's your best yes?
This is a tough one to answer. I don't think I have any single defining yeses that really, really stood out. But for me, that life is a series of multiple yeses and multiple nos. And if I think about all the, different jobs that I've applied for, I started in the music industry and that didn't quite work, and, all these different things. But for me, it's a series of yeses that have been really impactful. So LoopMe took a chance on me. I'd not worked in media before, but I had a friend who worked at MediaCom at the time and introduced me. And so, the guys at LoopMe gave me that first opportunity to try media. I think back at my time at Captify, whilst I had mentored people in the past, I'd never managed a big team. And Captify gave me the opportunity to manage bigger and bigger teams over the course of my time there. And then when I think about my time at Lumen, that was the opportunity to truly lead, to be part of the, the leadership team. And so I'm very grateful for every yes along the journey, but I don't think I don't look back and think, it's that specific yes that really changed everything. But I think life is a series of yeses and nos. And that, as someone who spent most of my career working in a sales role, that roller coaster is part of the fun.
Wow, that's cool. And Chris, tell me, what's your best yes?
Okay, so I'm going to caveat, and you know what I do, I'll double time it as well. So there's two things, right? So the best yes on a personal level, but relating back to work, was from my now wife. I say now wife, we've been married for a long time, when she yes to agree to marry me. Now on a personal level, I'm punching well above my weight. But beyond that, it's also the fact that I generally could not do what I do without my wife. And this gets often underestimated in the fact that, as I mentioned, I've got teams in 7 different time zones, right? Which means that every single hour of the day, one of my team is online, right? And working. And I do long haul travel. So I couldn't have a family, look after it. She supports me in many different ways. All right. I'm lucky she doesn't work, so she enables everything to happen. If I didn't have that, I couldn't achieve what I do. I would fail. Outside of that, as a leader, going back to what we talked about earlier in the podcast, is the biggest yes for me is watching my team outperform their goals and expectations. Again, this is what a good manager does. If you asked me 10 to 15 years ago, even as a more junior manager, I would have gone, again, I won a Cannes Award. I won this thing. I was person of the year, right? That doesn't resonate now. Now it's about enabling my team to win that. And so I love the fact that when I've got a really high performing team, I can then promote them. So the biggest yes for me is getting sign off for them to be promoted, them to get a pay rise, them to get recognizing for it. And that really resonates with me.
I love that. They're brilliant yeses. They're brilliant yeses. Your yeses are coming from other people now, as well as from your endeavours.
I find that part so interesting, don't you, Debra?
Absolutely. We didn't call this podcast It's a Yes for nothing. We just want to find out where yes has really featured in all of your lives.
Thanks for listening to It's a Yes, Making It in Media.
Do follow the show and share it with someone who's serious about getting results in their media career. If you found today's episode useful, we're running a live and interactive Zoom training workshop very soon. Just click on the link in the show notes for all the details. We'd love to see you there.